Hey guys, welcome back to Dem DMs. My name is Panda Ghost,
Fox Ghost.
And I'm Matt.
and today we are talking about player versus player conflict and how to handle it in your games. So if everyone's ready, let's slide on in. Starting off, I think we should start by defining what we think player versus player conflict is, and that would be whenever a player performs an action that leads to a disagreement with another player. So I think we should also start off with then, when is that appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it depends on the instance, as we're probably going to go into. PvP can be fun. It can be funny to do. If you're the rogue and want to steal from your barbarian's coin purse every now and again just to fool around with them, that's funny. It's fine. It's not crazy. But I think
you don't want to be stealing like family heirlooms off like the paladin or something,
Yeah, I mean it's when it starts to get either like malicious, like a player's just really trying to screw over somebody else just because they don't like that player, or they want to be I don't know, ridiculous for no reason at that given time. As well as like any time that it like can negatively affect the game. Like if you're in the middle of combat and a player says, "You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sneak up behind him and stab him in the back." Why? Like that. That's a very out there, example. But like those types of things can lead to games shutting down. And it happens a lot in evil campaigns where that they usually end with players killing each other. As some of us can attest, Fox.
We don't talk about
anyway,
that. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, I still have an arrow wound in my back. Thanks very much. But yeah, I mean, but it can be interesting sometimes if it's done with a purpose. Like if you're doing it because that's something your character would do in that moment where there's really nothing else going on. I, as a DM, don't really care. As long as both players kind of aren't actually fighting outside of the game about it, then I think it's up to them to handle.
Right. And the biggest thing is that everyone is on the same page about that, and that's something that the DM needs to lay out at the start, right? If the DM does not want to have, any player versus player instances and wants it all to be happy rainbows and sunshine, I mean, that's going to be a little boring, but that's something that the DM has to express at the start.
Yeah, and I feel like in some games, like if you're taking the story a little bit more seriously, those moments of like, I'm gonna steal a barbarian's gold don't really happen if everybody's involved in that mentality. But I mean, not every game is that serious. It's a game. So people like to have fun, and depending on what you do in that game, you might find those parts of the game fun. But yeah, I think it's when it starts leaking into the IRL feels of the group, that's when the DM might need to step in and say, "Okay, guys, what are we doing? Not enough." Like not anymore. So yeah, I mean, definitely talking about at the beginning. I don't think our group really does session zeros, but we kind of have that.
Not really.
That kind of understanding amongst us of like where the line is.
Well, yeah,
right?
we've been playing for like almost.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there was that one instance where the two of you guys kind of pushed that line quite a bit at the start of the last time I DM'd.
Yeah, well,
we were
playing
Paladin.
we were playing con artists, essentially like a con artist team, Foxy and I, and it was quickly getting out of hand a little bit.
Yeah, but but we are experienced enough where we were like, okay, we're starting to cross the line. Let's back off a bit.
It was an interesting way to like introduce those characters as that kind of personality. But as soon as we got past that, it was like, all right, not in the middle of the rest of the game. I think at one point we were like, maybe we should at the very end of the game try and ride off into the sunset with all the gold. But I think we
we extend that.
Yeah.
So it is something you want to talk about, and it's every good group should be receptive to that conversation. And any conversation that you have at the start of a game, because it's the DM's world and they can decide how they want to handle things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and speak of handle things, we should probably talk about good ways to handle player versus player conflict. If you have experienced players, then you really don't have to do much. I'm fortunate that you guys didn't go off the rails, but had you guys kept pressing the issue, that would have been a much different story, right?
Yeah, and I think at that point, if it had gone further than that, I think we have that kind of group where if you would have talked to us either during the game, like in that moment, or after, and said, hey guys, it's really kind of detracting from the game. You're kind of just doing this to be, jerks at this point, or like to be funny, and that's fine. But at the same time, it's affecting my game, and I don't want that here. Right. And I think that can be the end of it,
Right. And also, I will say it is the one time that I think that DM 100%, if things are getting really, really bad, it is the one time where the DM is allowed to be like, let's just say like a player is using their character to harass another player. The DM has every right to be like, no, your character doesn't do that. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if the player keeps persisting, then sometimes you just have to end that session and talk to that person, preferably away from everyone, and actually have I don't want to say disciplinary, but disciplinary actions, right? Because some behavior is just absolutely not acceptable.
When it starts getting into like toxic harassment levels, that's when you need to really just be like, okay, if I've had a conversation with this person and they're still doing it, I'm sorry, bud. You're gonna have to leave the group. And that's what it is. And unfortunately, it happens. Luckily, it obviously hasn't happened in our groups, I don't think.
I think part of that is how well players, I think, know each other as well. Like,
sure,
if you're only a D&D group, how well do you actually know the people you're playing with? Right? Mm-hmm. You know them more or less as their characters, not really as them. We were all friends before we started D&D, and that's so we kind of know how far we can push each other, and it really does matter that you actually know each other and know what people's boundaries are.
Yeah, and if it's a new group and you don't, then that is a perfect time to be like, hey guys, during session 0, what kind of stuff are we okay to get into? What kind of stuff do you as a player want to stay away from? And that's the end of that conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of covered this topic at this point. I mean, obviously it really comes down to the DM and the players having the respect and the conversation of like how to handle these types of moments. And you can still have funny, I'm going to steal the barbarian's gold and, stay away from the malicious side of things. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the Dem DMs podcast. We release a new video every Thursday. Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments down below. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, be sure to smite that like button, subscribe, and sneak attack the notification bell to ensure that you're up to date on all our new content.